You're listening to the Optimal Performance Podcast.
How's it going, everyone? It's Chris from Optimal Performance. This is going to be episode 3, and in today's episode, we got Matt and Nathan back in with us again, and we're going to be going into nutritional strategies and different approaches that you can implement heading into the new year, looking into all things health and performance as usual. So we're going to basically start with a question that we received on episode 1, which was what our thoughts are on intermittent fasting. This is obviously a tool that can be used, or a framework that can be used to look into dropping scale weight and fat, and also to improve health markers. So we're going to open the podcast with that, and then we're going to go into other styles of diet and other styles of eating that some of us may have implemented to basically give you information. What we would like to touch on before we dive into the podcast is that none of this information that you are listening to is to replace medical advice. It's all stuff that we have implemented and tried ourselves. So it's more about opinions and styles of diet and that we have used, rather than to replace medical advice. So we're going to dive in and start the episode with our thoughts and experiences on intermittent fasting, and also water fasting, which I know some of us have implemented. And as I say, it's a question we received on episode 1. So we're going to dive in with Matt and talk about intermittent fasting to begin with, what it is, and some of the benefits also.
Yeah, so intermittent fasting is basically you limit your time in the day of how much food you eat. So the common one is you eat for 8 hours and then you fast for 16 hours. So it's like normally operated on a 12-8. It's personally the way that I do it. There is others out there. There's 20 and 4, so you fast for 20 hours and eat for 4 hours, and there'll be many other variations of that. Basically, intermittent fasting is fasting within a 24-hour period. It's not going over that 24 hours. So the idea behind fasting can mean many different things. It can be for fat loss, it can be for stress, it can be for anything. Like, there's so many claims out there. The way that I've always done it is to limit the calorie intake that I have. I personally know that I'm a snacker, so I snack throughout the night at times. Intermittent fasting allows me to limit myself and just say, no, I can't eat at this time, so I can't snack. So when I'm sat on my laptop and I'm just doing a little bit of work or something like that, I'm not snacking while I'm doing it. I'm not eating unhealthy foods then. Yeah. But then when I am eating, when I do have my meals in the day, I don't snack in between them, because I make sure that I have nutrition packed meals. Yeah. So I have three meals, and in each one of those meals I'll make sure that I hit my markers, so that I'm not either overeating or under-eating, because a key one is under-eating. If you only eat in 8 hours but you don't change the way you eat, when you used to eat in 12, you're not going to eat enough, you're not going to get enough nutrients in your body. Yeah. And that'll cause you to start snacking. Yeah. So you'll then start snacking in between your meals in those 8 hours. I've known that through personal experience. Yeah. When I eat 3 good meals, I don't snack at all, and that personally is the way that I go with me intermittent fasting. It works well with me. I'm not too strict with it. If I have to eat at 11 instead of 12, I'll eat at 11. Even if it's 10, I'll just make sure that I have an 8-hour window. Yeah. And then sometimes my fast will be a little bit longer, a little bit shorter. But with intermittent fasting, I think you can go too far into looking for like ketosis and stuff like that, which is you're burning your fat cell. You've changed your energy source and burn your fat cells. I think in intermittent fasting, I don't think the time frame is long enough, and I don't see the increased benefits from it through intermittent fasting. I just see it as a calorie reducer. Yeah. So I do reduce my snacking, and that's pretty much it. I lead a healthier life and a more active life, and I have more energy through not eating like processed snacks.
Yeah. Well, it's a big one, isn't it, in terms of the accessibility to poor food choices nowadays. It's very easy to just buy garbage out of a garage on the run or whatever, and the stuff you're alluding to in terms of like you have more sustained energy and you feel better basically is where you're regulating your blood sugar. So if you're constantly eating sugar, your blood sugar spikes and then it plummets again. When it plummets, the first thing you're going to reach for is more sugar to give you that like sort of next jump where you can sort of regulate, as you're saying. You use that framework, and the key thing is for you, what you're mentioning there, is that the framework is adaptable. So if you need to pull it earlier and you need to eat at 11 or 10, you're still giving yourself a framework to work off, but it's adaptable, which is the key thing. And obviously some of the stuff you're mentioning there is obviously like to basically to control like your body composition, so like you're not overeating and you're not making poor snack choices, which is obviously from a health standpoint. But adopting that framework into your lifestyle is also going to allow you to keep like your body weight and your scale weight at a favourable position, and not jump too high or low. So as you're touching on, it's a really good tool. It's a really good framework, and the key thing is for everybody listening is if you are going to implement intermittent fasting, the framework is adaptable based on your lifestyle, so it gives people a framework to work off, and allows them to interchange it based on what their lifestyle is giving them at the current minute, based on work, based on activity levels. It's something I have used in the past, definitely. I have used it from a standpoint of also reducing calories, so I used it in the lead up to a holiday where I was looking to drop body fat, improve body composition, and it's a tool what really works when you stick to it. I think I used to get like one little bout of hunger in the morning. I'd have a big bottle of water, and then by 12 o'clock I'd usually find that I was ready for food, but I weren't desperate for food. Whereas usually if you'd have like simple sugars early of a morning, an hour to 2 hours later you're ready for food again, and then you're just ploughing in. That's where you can get your blood sugar spiking up and down all day, where I think if you do implement fasting, I think I used to feel like a bit of a steadier stream of energy. I used to feel really focused as well, to be honest, within early in the morning. So if I had a lot of laptop work to do, as you're mentioning, I used to feel quite focused on what I was doing by not ploughing food in. And it comes back to that health versus performance stuff again. So if you're looking to drop body fat, really good tool. If you're lifting weights early of a morning and you might need to refuel, or you might need to fuel beforehand, it might not be the best thing, but it comes down to whether it's adaptable and whether it can be implemented into your lifestyle again. So yeah, really interesting topic, the intermittent fasting, one that you can go all ways with based on what you need. Yeah,
just to touch on go back to the ketosis sort of thing. Got some research papers here we got together for you guys, which will be made available if you're interested in reading further. But that's been a big buzzword lately, isn't it? The ketogenic diet, ketosis and all that kind of stuff. But we can see here now, looking at someone's bloods, that your glycogen stores actually don't deplete until between 24 and 36 hours. So in terms of ketosis, you're going to be looking at fasting for up to 72 hours and plus. So in terms of like implementing intermittent fasting for ketosis, unless you're eating that sort of diet, high fat diet, it's again, like you were saying before, it's not going to be that beneficial.
That's it, isn't it? So like your level of ketosis does start raising after like 12 hours, but it's minimal.
Yeah,
it's until as you said, it's going to take 2 days, 3 days before you get it to a level where you can go, right, okay, I am benefiting from this stage of ketosis. So your glycogen stores are still going to be taken over in the first day, even your 2 days. It's going to be the third day, if not more, that's when it's going to be beneficial, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's where we see a drop in scale weight as well. People think they fast for, let's say, 24 hours and they'll see a massive drop in scale weight. But what people don't realise is for every gram of glycogen your body stores, your body also stores 3 to 4 grams of water. So in the initial 24 to 36 hours, you're not dropping body fat, you're dropping glycogen stores.
Yeah.
So you will see a massive reduction in scale weight, but that's not to say you've dropped 4 kilos of body fat. You've dropped 4 kilos of stored energy, and we can see that by looking at what we're looking at now, the bloods and stuff.
Yeah. I feel like if you're doing a fast to drop body weight, you can do it obviously, but I just don't think that's a healthy tool. If you're looking at dropping body weight and you're doing like a full fast where you're doing 2-3 days of no food, I don't think that's a healthy tool to apply, because the only reason you're now dropping body weight is because you haven't ate. So as soon as you go back to eating, You're just going to put that weight back
Exactly.
on.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of like combat athletes, you know, Chris has worked with some in the past, use it as a strategy. They pull carbohydrate,
Yeah.
so they can drop scale weight, and then when they refeed, obviously the body weight goes back up. That's why obviously when fighters
so that's
come
where
into
it
the
could
ring,
be good. So
yeah, well, you
that's,
can for combat athletes, it's definitely a tool that you could use for that sort of thing.
But in a health standpoint, it's obviously not.
But obviously,
ideal.
your body's source of preferred energy is carbohydrate.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly pulling that away from yourself, like on the performance perspective, you're going to limit yourself.
Yeah.
Depending on obviously the duration and the intensity of the exercise that you're doing. So if you're going for a zone 2 run, maybe you could do that fasted, no problem. But if you're going for like something high intensity, you obviously want to be fueling on some carbohydrate.
Yeah, you want to be fueled up, don't you? That's it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be running on empty.
That's where it comes back to what we were saying at the start in terms of like if you are lifting weights of a morning and your priority that day is to perform and you're looking to improve strength, might not be the best tool. If you're looking to implement it from a fat loss perspective and you need to pull total calories down, there's other ways you can pull total calories down, but fasting might fit your lifestyle and your framework the best. So it's always about using that framework within what you need. And as we touched on in the first podcast, what your goals are. So if your out and out goal this January and beyond is to just drop body fat and you want to hit a magic number on a scale, intermittent fasting might be a really beneficial tool and it might help you get there. Once you get there, are you still willing to implement fasting to stay there?
Yeah.
That's going to be successful. If you're not and you come away from it and you lose 5 kilos and then you put them back on, do you turn back to fasting again? So like it's about a way of life, isn't it, with nutritional choices and styles of eating. If your goal is fat loss or weight loss, it's only successful if it stays off. So like you've got to find the framework that you can stick to for the long term. And then that crosses over into the performance stuff. So if you're looking to hit a specific scale weight because you're in a weight governed sport like an athlete, you might have that time frame where you implement it. And then that's your tool to hit that specific weight. Whereas if you're a gym pop or like an average sort of client who just wants to train and lose weight, intermittent fasting might be perfect, but it's understanding that you can apply it forever. If the thing that you're doing or you're going to do in the first week of January, if you ask yourself, right, could I still be doing this in a year's time? You're going to lose weight and you're going to maintain that weight loss. Whereas if it's a 3-day, you're drinking 3 juices a day, and you say to yourself, could I still see myself doing that in a year's time? Most people are going to say no. Is it sustainable? So it's fat loss has got to be a little bit more long term in terms of sustaining what you achieve, rather than looking to plummet the scales as quick as you can in January, and then when you get back to real life, did they go back up? Probably. So it's you got to find that framework and them tools that you need based on your goals. And whether it's sustainable, which is a massive one.
Yeah, so and that's where it changes as well when you said about performing athletes. So like you've got your professional boxers and stuff like that. They are looking at just dropping the body fat. So that's where what we're talking about doesn't really apply to those people, because we're looking at it from a health point and performing as a daily thing. But they will do it. It's not healthy what they do. When you're dropping weight like that to make weight for a fight, it's not healthy, but they do it because that's the sport and that's what they need to do. So it's a good tool for them, but it's not a good tool for just going, right, January I want to drop this weight, and then I'm not bothered then for February. I'll binge out again in February.
It's like what we were saying there though about the glycogen storage. If you're doing it just to drop weight the first week, as soon as you implement some sort of normal diet, your glycogen stores are going to go back up. Doesn't mean it might look different on the scale, but it's not. You've not put 4 kilos of fat back on. You just stored your energy levels back up again.
Just replenish your stores.
But like we were talking about the performance side, and how like flexible it can be intermittent fasting. There's nothing to say you might start your day with an 8-hour eating window and then fast for 16 hours. So if you train early in the morning, you might be more beneficial for someone to have the eating window around the training, and then fast for the rest of the day. It might be a bit tougher because obviously you're spending time with other people eating throughout the day, so the temptation's always there, but there's nothing stopping from someone implementing it that way.
It's the lifestyle argument again, isn't it? How it fits in based on what you're doing and what your goals are, which is a massive one. So intermittent fasting, in my opinion, really beneficial framework and tool once again. If it's something that you're going to adopt, the question is it repeatable? Could you see yourself doing it long term? and then make it align with what you're actually trying to achieve. For performance, in my opinion, probably not the best thing on the planet, because performance usually doesn't happen in a deficit.
Yeah.
That's the truth. From a body composition standpoint and a health standpoint, in terms of stuff like digestion and all the other stuff that we can touch on with it, it's a really, really beneficial tool, in my opinion. As I say, it always comes back to whether the person can implement it for the long term, whether it's a tool that can be repeatable and used. So, it's a good touch point.
We touched on prolonged fasting just before with the ketosis and the glycogen stores. So the other question was water, like complete water-based fasts. So a complete water-based fast isn't sticking to a 24-hour window of eating within that. It's then going to 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. As we've just spoke about, you'd only really go into a stage of ketosis that's beneficial after 2-3 days. If you're doing it for a fat loss point of view, I'd say steer clear, because you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Because as Nathan touched on, then you're gonna drop weight, but you're gonna drop your glycogen stores, and then as soon as you start eating again after the fast, you're gonna just put them straight back on. But when you're looking at different types of benefits from it, so you've got the cell regeneration. Is that right? Yeah. You can go down. It removes damaged cells and stuff like that when you go into a certain stage of your fasting. So I know that you've looked into that a little bit, haven't you, Nathan?
More to do with the health related outcomes from the fasting. So obviously like blood pressure, like metabolic sort of stuff, adaptations that you get from fasting. But the obviously you can achieve them through that sort of fasting, but at the same time it mostly comes down to actual body composition. So the correlation between fasting and health related outcomes is more to do with the amount of how active you are and how much fat you've got on your body. So if it basically comes down to how much, just restricting calories in general, so just to lose fat and to be more active, and the outcomes are pretty much the same. So it's not a superior strategy to, let's just say, a normal calorie deficit where you just drop in a bit of weight, increasing activity maybe. So it's just like you were saying before, it's just another tool to use. So if you like to do it that way, then you do it that way. But it's not superior to any other sort of strategy.
But you do go into you've got your autophagy, which is the cell regeneration and the cell clearing out of damaged cells. So obviously that's not gonna happen without a fast, really.
If I'm being honest, I don't really know too much about that, so I wouldn't really
but the claims
delve
are
into it. That I'd have to do a bit more research for that.
After so many days of fasting, then you go into you're going to cell regeneration, which it clears out bad cells and repairs damaged cells. So if people are looking at doing that for, as you said, for blood pressure and stuff, diabetes, stuff like that, people go into it for the reason of, right, okay, I need to now try and stop myself from developing these things. So I know there's loads of shows on there about fasting and stuff like that, but one that probably people have been watching lately is Limitless with Chris Hemsworth. Now, I've just, before this podcast, I watched the fasting one with him. His idea is to prolong his health and life. The reasons for it was for the autophagy. Never say that. Autophagy. So everything that you put into your body that's negative, which everyone does. So we put processed foods in. None of us can sit here and say that we don't. Is damaging the body. All these processed foods are damaging the body. Now the idea behind it, and they on the show they claim that it's literally just idea. It's not facts. It's not. But they think that when you go into a stage of autophagy, you then start to clear out those damaged cells, which then prevents you from being more susceptible to diabetes, dementia, stuff like that. So that's the other side of it. It's not so much a body composition side. It's not body fat loss. You're now looking at potentially increasing your lifespan, and I think that's what the whole series is about with Chris Hemsworth. Limitless is prolonging his life and making so that he's a healthier person for as long as he can be.
Yeah, it's a big one. It comes back down to what we said, like health should be at the forefront of everybody's mind. This time of year now, people are just going to be like, deficit culture, right, I need to drop body fat, but being in a deficit forever is not healthy. So you've got to find the balance, haven't you, of like where your sweet spot is and where your baseline is. There's plenty of different ways to skin a cat, and it's finding what one fits you. From a health standpoint, it's massive. So as I say, that should be the forefront of everybody's mind. Most things people do at this time of year now are probably not going to be the healthiest. It's going to be very restrictive. Then you can go round the bend and go into the mental side or the emotional side of eating and that type of thing. But like the actual premise of intermittent fasting now kind of goes back to hundreds and thousands of years ago, where humans would have had extended periods of not eating.
Yeah.
As you're touching on there in terms of like processed foods and stuff now, foods that accessible, nobody has to worry about it. So like this is a new way of fasting, what people are now adopting in terms of giving people frameworks. Now hundreds of thousands of years ago, it wouldn't have been a magic thing where after 16 hours pass you then eat.
Yeah.
Human beings would have had extended periods of not eating, and then they're basically trying to catch and kill the food and cook it that way. Nowadays food's that accessible and it's that easy to just pick up garbage. This is a framework where people are trying to come away from that. Will you improve body composition? You will if you're in that total calorie deficit, but as Nathan touched on, it's not superior to any other deficit.
Yeah.
Now from a health standpoint, if you've got issues like bloating, IBS, blah blah blah, that's where for me it comes into its own in terms of like really fine tuning how your body functions and how it works ultimately in terms of long-term change, again, as we touched on earlier.
That's it, and it's personal as well, isn't it? As we've said with everything that we do, it's personal. So some people will benefit massively from it, some people might not benefit at all from it.
Yeah.
People, like, again, if your head's not in it, then are you going to benefit from it?
Yeah.
You know, but the thing is it's all about, as you said, with the people years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, just fighting for the food, and literally like not having food for days. That was on the show as well. It's quite interesting that that's what you touched on, and that's basically the premise of what they were doing on the show. Is like, right, okay, we're gonna take it back to when you used to have to hunt for your food, and that's where you will feel it. So it wasn't so much like, oh, I'm just doing 16 hours and then I'll eat again for 8, I'll do 16 hours. The idea was, right, we're going to follow what people used to do years ago, and you're going to hunt for your food, you're going to do this, that and the other. And you can see the levels spiking and moving.
Well, it's an interesting, a lot of the research around fasting's on like obesity and stuff, isn't it? And like a lot of people use it to reduce obesity. Now we know obesity is rising across the globe. Like people are heavier, carrying more body fat. So this could be the tool what gets used. You are going to improve health markers by dropping scale weight if you're obese. But at a certain rate, that tool you'll hit a block where like you sort of stick, and then it's whether you're going to implement a fast to stick at that level, or do you need more weight loss, or do you need to reduce markers more. It comes back to what you can do long term always, doesn't it, in terms of the fasting. And then it's that health versus performance argument again. Both of them do feed hand in hand. So there, if you drop scale weight and you're obese, your markers are probably going to improve as well in terms of blood pressure and that type of thing. But at any rate, with any diet, you're going to hit a sticking point. Now, you can't diet forever. You can't be in a deficit forever. So you've got to find a happy medium and use these tools to apply for the long term to see long term change / maintenance with what you're trying to achieve.
Definitely, yeah. So, like, on touching on diet, and now we'll move on from the fasting side of things. I feel like we've addressed the question and we've answered it to our best knowledge. Obviously, none of us are researchers or professors in fasting, so it's never going to be that
Just to finish up on the fasting, just want to touch on a paper I found here. So, as we know, meta-analysis is the highest level of research, and we've got a paper here that looked at 11 meta-analysis to see what the outcomes were for fasting. And just a bit of a spiel, but basically, intermittent fasting demonstrated beneficial outcomes for body mass index, body weight, fat mass, low density lipoprotein, which is your bad cholesterol, total cholesterol, triglycerides, fasting glucose plasma, fasting insulin resistance, blood pressure. Intermittent fasting was found to reduce fat-free mass, but all of these outcomes weren't superior to any regular diet. So again, it comes down to calories in, calories out, and how much you're actually moving. But like we've said, it's a great tool to use. So if you find that's best for you, then
so that was based on intermittent fasting.
Intermittent fasting, that is.
Okay,
As you can see with that, you're getting health markers improving. You're getting composition in terms of fat-free mass and all the rest of it. So you're getting both.
I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot of benefits there to practicing it.
Yeah, and that's it. It's not like people could misinterpret that and go, see, it's no good because it's no better than anything else.
It's just a tool.
It's giving you the tool to achieve all those health markers that you've just.
Exactly. And if that's something you can stick to,
you've just done that,
then 100% is worth doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
if that's what you use,
so if it works for you,
stick to.
If it works, that's what you go for it, because it's gonna improve your health. There's no real negative if you do it right and you do it smart. So I think with anything that we're going to talk about today, you have to have smart choices. So if you do intermittent fasting and just go to Mackey's for every meal, that's not a smart choice. You are operating an intermittent fasting lifestyle, but it's not a smart choice, and you're not going to have those health benefits that you're talking about. So I think anything that we talk about, you've got to operate with a smart choice.
But on the flip side, now we can discuss how this can still be achieved through other means or other ways, other tools.
Definitely. So it comes into styles of eating. We know what we're going to see on socials and stuff at this time of year now. We're going to see keto, juice detox, cleansers, calorie tracking, veganuary, massive one, Atkins diet, Weight Watchers. All of them are based around a deficit, and it's how you implement that deficit into your lifestyle, which is key. So I was going to touch on tracking calories. What are your thoughts on it first and foremost?
It's something I don't always do it. I did it long enough now to I can eyeball my portions, and I can kind of guess how much I'm eating throughout the day. But in my opinion, I think everyone should do it for at least a minimum of 2 weeks, just so you learn about how much you're actually eating, what a portion looks like. You'd be surprised. I don't know if anyone's ever actually weighed out a portion of cereal, 30 grams, 40 grams. It's tiny, so you're probably eating 3 or 4 times the amount that you're supposed to eat, sort of thing. So I think that's another great tool, and some people think it's a bit obsessive, and it can be, and you kind of burn your head out sometimes. Think, I can't be arsed weighing me rice. But if you give it 2 weeks, a month, you'll get to a point where you just understand a bit more, and you know how much that you're eating.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, really good. Again, it comes down to these tools. We keep mentioning the word tools, but it's having the tools in your skill set, isn't it, and using them as and when you see fit. For most of my clients, I do get them to calorie track initially, as Nathan said, first and foremost, so we can see their response on the scales to what they're putting in. And then the key one is so they understand what they are putting in as well, and they can start to see in versus out if we're looking at weight loss or governing scale weight for a combat athlete. Before MyFitnessPal come out, it's still fairly new in terms of like an app and like having that accessibility. Like if you go back, I don't know, maybe 20, 30 years, I don't think it existed. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't think that tool was available.
30 years ago, I don't think iPhones would exist.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I don't think about how accessible like the technology is now to just be able to just scan what you want and I'm going to scan my cereal or whatever. It's a really beneficial tool, but what did people do before that was a tool? Did they eyeball? Did they look at portion control? Did they just guess? Like it's always about finding them tools, what you need. So I've done it in the past massively, and it's really helped. I've just said, right, I'm going to stick to a specific amount of calories. I'm not going to go over that, and I'm going to drop body fat and scale weight. And then you can go into macronutrients in terms of specific amounts of carbs, fats and protein within the number. You can do just calories and protein. So I prescribe this differently for the clients I work with and myself, but it's something I've actually come away from within the last year. So last year, when it got to this time last year, I said to myself, I'm not going to track calories for a full year, because I'd become bored with it and too obsessive, as Nathan touched on. And everything I've ate this year, from January up until this moment now, I have eyeballed, and I've ate it because I
can tell as well.
Yeah. So I probably need to drop a little bit of body fat myself. This might be a tool that I use coming into January now, is to track, to make sure that I'm not eating in a surplus. Would I stick to it forever? No. But to get the percentages and the momentum going in the right direction, I might use intermittent fasting within that deficit and still track. And it's always about finding your sweet spot. So it's a really beneficial tool. Again, calorie tracking, it's not something I would recommend everybody do forever, because you can get too
I think it's periodic, isn't it? If what you're saying, you've done it for a year or so, you tracked for a long time, and then you had a full year off. Now if you track again in January, then what you can do with that is you can then go, right, okay, how far off am I? So when you started, you might have been eating double what you should have been eating. Now you might only be eating 10% more. So now, every time you do a periodic track, you will be able to narrow that down and keep narrowing it down. And then eventually you'll go, I'm bang on the money every time now. So then you don't have to track anymore. So just implementing a 2-week track once a year could actually benefit you.
Could pull you into a favourable position.
And it stops you having to track all the time as well.
So the other styles are obviously visual, aren't they, in terms of like tracking calories. You can obviously, the precision nutrition certification is massive on like portion control, visual. So like a thumb is a portion of fat, a cupped hand is going to be your carbohydrate portion, and then a closed fist is going to be your protein serving. And obviously how many of them servings varies, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you've got a sedentary lifestyle or you're an athlete. So like how much of that portion size you have varies based on in versus out. So if you sit at a desk all day, you're probably not going to need as many fists or as many cupped hands. If you are an athlete, you're going to need more of X, Y and Z. So it comes down to like a really nice visual way of doing it, building a plate of food. That's another really beneficial tool that you can prescribe to people and use yourself if you don't want to track, but you still want to make sure that you're not overfeeding constantly in terms of building a plate of food. You can use your hand as a portion control visual. It's portable, you can take it anywhere. That could help somebody get into a calorie deficit if that's what they're looking for in terms of weight loss. So that they're two really big styles of diet, and what I'd say are probably going to serve people better long term. If you start to get into the restrictive stuff, like I'm not going to eat bread and sugar and sweets, everybody knows they're poor choices roughly for health. But if you pull them out completely, how sustainable is that nutritional strategy going to be? Probably not that sustainable. So like with diets and strategies for eating and stuff, if you could see yourself doing it in a year's time, it's probably a good way to eat. If you couldn't see yourself doing it in a year's time, you're probably not going to get long-term success with it. So it comes down to, again, what your goals are, what you need, and what is sustainable and repeatable and consistently repeatable for the long term to get long-term sustainable results.
So we've touched on tracking, so let's just touch on the calorie deficit. Why is that important? What is it? Basically, just let's explain to the viewers what we mean by it.
Simply put, it's just the reduction of calories. It doesn't matter how you achieve that. You can achieve that daily or weekly. Depends how you look at your calories. So let's keep the math simple. Say you're only supposed to eat 1,000 calories a day. I'm not recommending that to anyone, so don't do that. Just so that I can keep my math simple. So that you've got 7,000 calories a week. Say we know that a pound of body fat's 3,500 calories. So we need to find a way of, say if you want to drop, a pound or half a pound. Say it's a pound, again, to keep the math simple. We need to create a 3,500 calorie deficit in that week. So we achieve that by either knocking 500 calories a day off. That's the the usual go-to
Yeah.
one that people do, and that usually equates to around about £1 a week. But I like just touching on the eyeballing side. You can like alternate calories, so you can have a high calorie day, low calorie day, or Chris introduced me to carb cycling.
Yep.
Where you'll have like a high carb day to fuel performance, and then the days that you're not training, you're recovering, you don't really need as much carbohydrate because you're not moving as much. So there's all different ways of implementing it, but it all comes down to calories in versus calories out. That's the magic thing.
Carb cycling's a really, really good one because you can get both. You can still fuel performance relatively on a training day, like on a go day. As Nathan's touched on, you can go up and down with total calories based on your input or your activity. You can go up and down with macronutrients within that total calorie sort of split that you're using. So that goes into nutrient timing strategies, which could be a little bit complex for some people.
Yeah.
And then you gotta think whether people are ready for it. So as Nathan said, if you're in a total calorie deficit and your goal is to drop body fat, you're gonna drop body fat and lose scale weight. Now, if you're an athlete or you're still looking to improve performance in the gym, something like carbohydrate cycling or nutrient timing might be more important. So you could have a go day where you're lifting heavy and you're running. That's going to be a high carbohydrate day where you're trying to fuel training performance and replenish glycogen, like we were touching on earlier with the fasting stuff. And then you could have a complete rest day where you would pull carbohydrates down because there's no need to fuel. And you might increase fats for hormone regulation and total calories so they're not coming too low. And then ideally what happens is your protein stays at a constant all week, so you're constantly regenerating. So yeah, like nutrient timing's a big one as well. That touches more on the performance side of things, but you still can use nutrient timing to improve body composition and health markers as well. So that's a really interesting topic to dive into
that's
when we're working with athletes and Gen Pop as well. It works for both.
Yeah. It's obviously a more advanced form of
100%.
You get that nice bit of metabolic flexibility as well, like changing energy systems from obviously oxidizing glucose to oxidizing fat from day to day. So it's a nice way to mix things up.
So let's actually go into some of the diets that people may think about starting in January. So the big one at the minute, the one that is actually pushed quite a bit, which is a little bit wild, but is Veganuary.
Yeah.
So the idea behind Veganuary is they want a vegan world. That's it. So reading their thing here is Veganuary is a non-profit organisation that encourages people worldwide to try vegan for January and beyond. And the campaign is trying to get the world to be vegan. So
bit of propaganda there.
Yeah, it's not trying to help you at all. Like the nothing in what they've just said then is looking at your benefits, either weight loss or health benefits and stuff like that. Nothing is talking towards that. Usually when people go from meat eating diet to a vegan diet, is they're not very informed, not well informed on how to do it healthy. So to have a vegan diet, you have to think about it a lot. It's not an easy thing to do, and then even then you've still got to supplement quite a bit just to make it, just to make sure that you're hitting the right vitamins and minerals in your body.
Well, we seen this massively, didn't we, years ago with like the Netflix documentaries and stuff, and the amount of people I seen who went vegan off the bat. What the health, I think it was called. So he's done it. I definitely didn't do it, but I know a lot of people who crossed over into a vegan diet off the back of watching
it's
the
kind of
Netflix.
a scaremonger sort of thing, but I wasn't like that educated up to that point, so I was just like, oh my god.
Yeah, because you just think it's gospel when you listen to the documentary, and then it's like, are you ready to implement it into your lifestyle? Now, most people I know who crossed over into that vegan diet off the back of it maybe lasted 3 to 4 weeks, and then they were back to eating normal again. So like it comes down to habit development again and stuff, that type of thing. Like your habits, you'd always fall back. I know some people who eat the same thing every single day. I have a bowl of granola for me breakfast and I have X, Y and Z, and it's like you're always going to fall back to your normal. So you've always got to think what you're doing it for. As you say, the Veganuary thing, As you said, it's a bit of propaganda. It's just to push that style. It's not to improve health or not to improve markers or not to improve performance or body composition. It's just to push more people into that way of eating. I know most people who cross over into that way of eating, they don't stick to it.
No. So what they're doing here is, within the very first spiel that they put out on their about page, it's telling you that it's a business.
Yeah.
It's a non-profit business, but it's still a business. It's not looking out for your best interest.
Yeah.
It's very strict. Literally, you go vegan from nothing.
Massively.
So basically, you eat all your dairy products, you eat all your meat products, your fish products. Now you're eating none of it at all.
Yeah.
It's a massive shock to your system, and it's a massive shock to your brain as well, because you've now got to think of ways to fill those meals.
Yeah.
So you used to have fish with your meals, you used to have meat with your meals, or eggs.
Yeah.
You've got to now fill that with a healthy, sustainable vegetable, or legume, or grains, or something like that.
I think this is where education is very important. If you can be healthy being a vegan, but you need to know what you're doing. There's a lot of false information out there, like people say, oh, there's more protein in broccoli, or just as much as in 100 grams of steak.
Yeah.
The first problem is, you get 100 grams of steak, you need about 4 kilograms of broccoli, which no one's going to eat.
Yeah.
And secondly, vegetable protein is inferior to animal protein.
Yeah, definitely.
So not to bore anyone too much with the science, but meat or animal protein is a complete protein. It contains all essential amino acids that the body needs. Vegetable protein does not. So you have to pair foods together. And those that are educated will know what foods to pair together to make sure they're getting the right amount. But lots of them don't. So you just jump across, you think, oh, I'm healthy because I'm eating a jacket potato and four tons of
instead
broccoli.
of meat, and then it's you're losing your essential aminos, and then it's what you want again. Then, so if you're looking to build tissue,
you become that skinny fat, then, don't you?
Yeah, that's it. So you're probably going to lose scale weight if you're a non-vegan, and then you jump into veganuary. You're probably going to lose scale weight, but then when you go back to your normal style of eating after January's finished, what do you do then?
It's yo-yoing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like the old saying of yo-yo diets. This is another one.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong, people live a healthy vegan lifestyle. They supplement it. They're very, very informed on the, as you said, the proteins and stuff like that. Like, you can't, like, broccoli is nowhere near as bioavailable as beef protein. As you said, it's a full protein. It's everything you need in a protein to use it. Whereas broccoli, you can have the same amount of protein. As you said, you can eat 4 kilograms of broccoli if you wanted to, but you still can't use it. You can still only use it.
You can still use it, but it's incomplete. So it's not going to do the job it's supposed to.
Yeah,
completely.
Exactly. So
the way I look at it is, I look at a diet, and funnily enough, I have a paper on it. You wouldn't believe, would you? But basically, it looks at all the diets, and every single diet. So like pescatarian, vegan, vegetarian, carnivore, they all have a deficiency in. The only diet that doesn't is a balanced diet, because it includes everything. So that just tells me that is what you're supposed to eat.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't achieve that if for ethical issues people don't want to eat meat. Fine.
Yeah, but they need to supplement. That's the thing. Like, vegans need to supplement, and
B12's a big one, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So you've got quite a few, to be fair. Like, on this site, it does actually give you some nutritional tips and what you're going to be deficient in. So vitamin B, D,
that's
vitamin D,
just a red flag to me straight away. That.
And well, that's it. If you're having to, like, label this diet as, right, okay, it's not complete. So we want you to do this diet, but we're not giving you everything you need to live a healthy life. So the diet's not healthy.
I feel like if people fall into the trap of thinking, oh, I'm eating vegan, it's super healthy. But have you ever read the packet on the back of like some fake burgers, like vegan burgers? What's
the
in
fillers
them?
And
full of shite.
Yeah.
So people think, oh, it's vegan, it's healthy for me, but it's probably more processed than just buying a bird's eye chicken burger.
Yeah. So all the ones is iron, omega-3 and 6, iodine, B12, and vitamin D.
Yeah. Some of these are essential for, like, function.
Massively essential.
So, like, what you do then, do you replace what you don't eat? Most people do that on normal diets as well nowadays, because nobody's nutrition's bang on the money. But as close as you can get to a full profile of everything's going to be the best diet. And then it comes back into that argument of health versus composition or performance then, doesn't it? It's like, if you're vegan and you're deficient in all these X, Y, and Z, do you feel good? Maybe not. You might tell yourself you feel good, or this is healthier for me
because I'm doing a good thing.
Yeah, and then it comes into the emotional side of eating, then where like you are eating for an ethical reason. You might think you feel better and this is cleaner and all the other stuff you see.
Like a bag of shit, though.
But if you're deficient in X, Y, and Z, and then you become ill, or whatever the scenario is that the best diet or the best way of life? Maybe not.
So what I would say is, if you are thinking about going that way, is make sure you do your research and
make sure you make healthy choices, and make sure you do a lot of research on the proteins that you're ingesting
and the supplements that you do need.
Every diet that you're doing, so like if you're doing a diet for January, the diet needs to be promoting a healthy life. It's got to be. It can't be detrimental to your health, because then that's just a challenge. It's not a diet. It's not. You're not looking at promoting healthy lifestyle and sustainable lifestyles, which I feel like all these quick fire diets are. They're just looking for reducing stuff that you intake, and that's it. And that's why a lot of them work for the short period of time that they do. But what that leaves you with in like a mental state is a negative feeling towards food, and you then go into cravings.
That's a massive one with like women who do Weight Watchers and stuff, isn't it? So it's like right, if you haven't lost any weight on the scale this week, you've made no progress. And then you go, right, I need to get sharper on the Weight Watchers and me sins and all this type of stuff. So it's like, that's an unbelievable business, because everybody keeps coming back. Oh, let's pay to get on a scales, and this woman's going to validate whether I've made progress or not. And right, if you haven't lost a pound of scale weight this week, you haven't made progress. That's what that's based around. So it's like a low-fat diet, because fat is the highest or the most calorie-dense macronutrient. So it's based on low fat. It's based on sins. So you're doing something bad.
Demonising food.
So it's a women based culture thing, isn't it? Weight Watchers, where you will get on the scale and it's I haven't lost any weight this week, so I haven't made progress. That scale weight when you step on can be massively variant, dependent on a lot of different factors. So it's culture, and as you say, the emotional side of eating is huge. I think Weight Watchers from that perspective is terrible, because it demonises foods and basically tells you whether you've made progress or not, just on one metric, which is going to be scale weight, which for me is the worst way you can do it. But
which
it comes down to what you can stick to.
I like the idea of the togetherness, the community of it.
That's it. That's the good thing about it, isn't it? It's like the idea behind it for the scale weight is a negative massively, because as you've just touched on, it's possibly the worst way of regulating whether you are making progress or not. But as you just said, Nathan, the community is what people might be drawn to as well, like the recognition for actually doing good. But team that with the sins and the focus on the wrong.
Well, we know, don't we, if we want to lose weight or lose body fat, we need to be in a deficit. And the way it doesn't work, or way that people stall eventually, because the majority of people on Weight Watchers are quite big people, aren't they? So they drop a lot of weight because obviously they're eating better food and they're in a deficit. They might not think they are, but they are. Now the way it doesn't work eventually is because they say, like, potatoes, you can't have any of that. You can have as many potatoes as you want because they're sin free. So you're telling me I can eat as many potatoes as I want, as many calories of potatoes as I want, and that's fine, but I'm not going to gain any weight.
Well, it
doesn't work like that,
isn't it?
If you're in a surplus through potatoes, you're not going to lose scale weight. Exactly. That's where it's a great business, because you keep coming back, you keep trying to validate whether you've lost weight. If you haven't that week, you're going to be paying for your step on your scales the week later. Now, if you've just ate 4,000 calories worth of potatoes a day, and you need 2,000 to drop.
Though, isn't it?
That's it. I mean? But then you're not going to lose weight. Exactly. So it's that's where it's a great business, because you keep coming back. But that style of dieting for me is probably dying out a little bit. But definitely, that as a business is gonna stick around forever, because it's very specific to a target audience, which is usually like women who are around 40 to 50, I'd say. And they'll have tried everything.
Yeah.
You start losing scale weight, but then what you find with people like that, they end up putting it back on twice over by the time they go back to their normal. So then as soon as you're back at your normal, I need Weight Watchers again.
Yeah, I've done a little bit of research on the most popular diets at the minute, just through like just random websites like Forbes and stuff like that. And Weight Watchers was quite a big one, to be fair. I think it was number 3 on one of them.
Yeah, it's huge.
And they are making changes into their routine and the way that they perceive sins and stuff like that. They are realising that it's not as simple as just that.
Yeah.
But they can never get away from that, because that is the premise of their business.
Yeah.
It's a sin-based program. But they are actually trying to make progress into making it more healthy and more sustainable,
and that's
which is good.
That's their framework to control what you need in versus out, isn't it? So they create sins, so you don't eat too much of it, so you don't go into a surplus.
Yeah, the sin in the...
But as Nathan's saying, if you eat 4,000 calories worth of potatoes a day because they're free, you know what I mean? You're still gonna gain weight. So it comes down to what you can stick to for the long term, doesn't it?
It's moderation, and what they're doing is they're trying to moderate the high calorie intake foods and like wines and beers and stuff like that. They're dead sinful because they're high in calories.
Yeah, the calorie return is too big.
Doesn't mean that the ones with 0 sins have got no calories in them. That's where I think the perception's a little bit wrong. Yeah, people think, because it's no sins, it's no calories, so I can have as many, and that's the premise of the business. But I think once they realise that that's not the way forward, and they try and implement that as a business, they haven't got a business there no more, really, have they? So they're going to always have that stage of it, but it might just be watered down a little bit and a little bit more information on your 0 sins, right? You've still got to limit them. You can't have as many as you want. I think that's where it needs to go.
It's education, isn't it? You've got to educate. Yeah. You got to educate people properly to make sure that they have the tools they need again to live for the long term sustainable stuff, as we've touched on.
Yeah, so they're like your quite common like fad diets, like your quick, your 1 month diets and stuff like that people tend to go to for January, don't they? But just want to touch on overall diets, so like diets that we can implement daily for forevermore, really, instead of going down the route of just trying to lose fat quickly, like what people are probably trying to do. Let's inform people on a healthier diet and what our recommendations are.
Well, I think this is a bit of a controversial one, but the quick fire simple answer is just the one that you can stick to. Yeah. So like whatever diet you're implementing or whatever nutritional strategy or eating style, the best one for you is going to be what you can stick to, and it's got to be interchangeable. So like if you are like a goal driven person and you're looking to deadlift 2 times your body weight, or you're looking to drop 10 kilos of fat, you've got to understand where your goalposts are. So like if that is your goal, right, this year I want to lose 10 kilos of fat, and you want to hit this magic number on a scale, that's great because you've got the goal, but the diet you stick to, what gets you there, is the best one. So as we've touched on, loads of different stuff like juice detoxes, Weight Watchers, intermittent fasting, water fasting, calorie tracking, portion control, whatever framework you use, if you can stick to it long term, that's the best route. There's no like one answer for anybody, because everybody listening or watching is going to have different lifestyles. They're going to do shifts. Some people might sit at a desk all day. They might be coaches where you stood on your feet all day. You could sit at a laptop all day. The diet you can stick to is the best one, and then it's got to match what your goals are, and hopefully support health in the background in terms of like you feel good, you're hitting all your vitamins and minerals, you've got a complete profile of your amino acids. These are things that your body needs to function well. So my input on that would be that the nutritional strategy you need to implement this year is the one that you can stick to forever. If you can't see yourself still following a specific style of eating in a year's time, it's probably not the best thing to do throughout January, because it's probably too extreme to stick to. So that would be my answer.
Yeah, it's hard, because it's almost like if you can't stick to it, then obviously it's not healthy for you either. Yeah. Because if you're doing a diet, like some people go, oh yeah, I can do that for a month, but if you couldn't do it after that, then is it healthy for you? Are you actually getting everything you need? Because anyone can, you can just go and eat, as you said, just eat potatoes. I could just go and eat potatoes for a month. I'll live. But would I be healthy? No.
Simply, Andy, be sad.
But that's it. It's just trying to get it so that it's sustainable and healthy for you. And then the only way that you can do that is by going, right, okay, can I do this for the rest of my life? If you can, it's sustainable.
That's the one for you.
Yeah. There's a lot of focus around the Mediterranean diet as a staple diet to stick to. Now I know there's different ways of perceiving the Mediterranean diet. You can go too strict, you can go too lax, you can pick the wrong things in it. But as a whole, I find that diet, if you're knowledgeable and you make smart choices in that diet, I think that's what, for me personally, the most sustainable that you can make, and the one that'll give you the most health benefits.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're on the same sort of wavelength on that.
I'm pretty sure. Don't quote me on it, but the Greeks have the highest life expectancy in the world, I believe, or one of.
Right. Okay.
It's definitely up there.
Yeah.
Which would suggest that the healthier.
Exactly.
Yeah. So then it's.
I think the reason it works is if you actually look at the makeup of a Mediterranean diet, is it includes a bit of everything. It limits obviously the shite. Promotes the uptake of fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and then you in small bits of red meat, bits of chicken, eggs, milk, yogurt, even a bit of red wine in moderation. So you've got a bit of everything in there, and I think that's why, in terms of a diet, it's the most complete. And I think if you look at all the research around it, it's massively positive and
you can't cheat what your body needs. So like, the basic premise of life is your body needs energy to function. So like, you can start going into BMR, basal metabolic rate, and all the rest of it, but your body runs on a currency of energy, and that energy comes in through nutrition, doesn't it, or food choices. As I say, you can tweak that whatever way you want. You can just look at, right, I'm going to try and live as long as I can. You can look at, I want to fuel performance. You can look at, I want to drop body fat. But I think the premise of where we're going with it is whatever the most complete nutritional method you can stick to.
Yeah.
That's the best thing for you to do. So like, you could use intermittent fasting, you could use calorie tracking this year, coming into the new year, to hit a specific goal or to improve health. Both of them usually work exclusively. So like, as we touched on with the fasting specific, like, all the markers come down, your scale weight comes down, but it's only if you can stick to it. And that it's a common theme that we've touched on throughout this, but it's only if you can stick to it for the long term where you're going to actually see sustainable results or gains from it. So yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah, well, that pretty much sums up the podcast for tonight. Basically, do something that you can stick to. Don't make it too complicated. Don't make it too extravagant. Don't go to the extremes. Just do the simple things first. As you said, track your calories, get into a calorie deficit, and just get something that you can stick to. As you said, it doesn't matter what the method is, doesn't matter what the tool is that you'll use, just stick to it, and that will bring down your body composition back to a stage that you want it to be at, and then also you'll feel better and you can sustain that, and you'll keep whatever you. If you are looking for scale weight to come off, whatever you take off is staying off then. Yeah. It's not going to pile back on. Yeah. You're not doing it just for the kicks. Yeah. You're not doing it for the fight. If you are, obviously that's a different thing to talk to. But if you're just doing it as a health point of view and you just go, right, I want to lose a little bit of weight, then let's do it. But let's do it right, and let's do it sustainably so that it stays off, so that you look like you want to look all the time.
Yeah. Well, this time of year now, most people on the planet are going to feel a little bit sluggish moving into this first week of January, aren't they? And if you create too many rules, you're not going to stick to them.
No.
So my one quick piece of advice would be, set up a nutritional strategy, what you feel as though you could still be following in a year's time. That's the first thing. Don't create too many rules, and then if it's extreme, you're probably not going to stick to it, so your actual long-term progress isn't going to go the way you want. So if you are one of them people who's going to say, right, I'm not eating bread, I'm not eating sugar, I'm not eating sweets, you're going to create too many rules and overwhelm for yourself. So as we touched on, the best diet you can follow, or the best strategy you can follow, is the one you can stick to and repeat. If anything you're about to implement over these next few weeks you can't see yourself doing by the summer or beyond, it's probably not best to do it. It's probably best to set something up or reach out and seek advice from a coach or a nutritionist or whatever to make sure that what you're doing actually benefits you for the long term, which is the key.
Well, we can obviously go into a lot of detail in a lot more things on this podcast, but if you do have any other questions on these topics, just drop them below or drop them into one of our DMs. We'll be more than happy to reach out to you, or even revisit on a future podcast. But thanks for watching for today. Hope you've learned a little bit of information and we can help people make smarter choices coming into the new year.
Enjoy.